Welcome to the last camera comparison of 2025, and I think it's a good one. I've got periscopic flagships here. So the Honor Magic 8 Pro up against the Oppo Find X9 Pro and then the Vivo X300 Pro. Front-facing cameras right now, and we're shooting at 4K 60 here. They're using electronic image stabilization. Looking at all stability as I do a little bit of a jog. Now all these phones here, they're on the latest firmware. I have cleaned the lenses with a microfiber cloth, so there's nothing that should be stopping them from performing at their absolute best at the time of this video. Rear cameras now, 4K 60 frames per second. All three of them can do 4K 120, which is very good. These are the ultra-wide cameras, so using electronic image stabilization. As I pan around, hopefully we're not going to see any jitter. And so far, what do you think is the best? Now, I like here the Honor, it seems to get a little bit more in the shot than the other two, and the ultra wide for video with our Vivo is not so great. It's not so wide, and that's the whole point of the ultra wide, is to be wide field of view, fit more in the shot. So main cameras now, video transition, we can check that out too as well. Which one do you think looks the smoothest? I think the Vivo looks pretty good. So that's 1x with our main camera, optical image stabilization. A bit of a jog now, seeing which one is the steadiest. The castle's just behind that huge boat there, well, the cruise ship. So 3.5x optical with the Vivo. We go to 3x with our Oppo and 3.7 with the Honor. And we'll go back to the main camera, just looking at, again, that transition between them. And I mean, they're all reasonably good, but I do think here it looks slightly better maybe on the Vivo. So that's the 3.5 and 3 and 3.7 zoom cameras. Seem pretty good, the stability. Let's take this up to 10x now. 6x with our Oppo, but I'll bring that into 10 to make it all the same. So that is now 10x. And bring this up then to 10 with the Honor. Looking at the castle there of Denya in the background. So that is our 10x zoom. And I can see they're slightly misaligned here, the cameras. There we go, try and line it up a little bit better. And the castle there, I can see some seagulls, some details there, which is good, but not looking as great now with so much digital zoom. Back to the main cameras and ultra wide cameras. Let's take a look now at low light video. Main cameras right now first. Now I've made a change in the settings, and that is to disable the auto FPS mode, because sometimes that can cause some lag, so I decided to turn that off so it's not going to be problematic. So pan around, we should not see any jitter, drop frames, shouldn't be any at all. Castle there in the background. Now ultra wide video is normally terrible, and yeah, it's not looking good, but I can see one of the phones here definitely looks like, at least on the screens at the moment, the Vivo is looking way clearer than the other two. Brighter at least. I don't know about clearer. It's still, I think, all three. The video looks terrible, ultra wide. I mean, it doesn't have the aperture really for this. Zoom cameras now. So they're optical zoom. Vivo does seem to be a bit brighter than the other two. Back to those main cameras again. And all three do look similar, but I need to get this on my calibrated monitor to compare and see exactly which one is the best at low light video.
Over to stills, and with portraits here, all three have a different look to them. It's down to personal preference. I find the Vivo looks great first off when you look at it, but it is a little bit over sharpened, I do find. There's a bit of skin smoothing happening, but I do find that a lot of people will like this look. I personally like the look of the Oppo, because it hasn't been over sharpened. It's the softer image. The stitching is still excellent. In fact, the stitching on all three is very good. And then the Magic, okay, a little bit too bright. They have tweaked up the brightness, but it still is very good. So you can't really go wrong with portraits with all three. It's down to personal preference, and my pick being the Oppo. With the selfies, again, we see a very different style across all three. I find the Vivo to just have a little bit too much contrast. Look at my jacket, color of my eyes. It gets a wider field of view, the selfie camera with the Vivo, But the best colors is the Honor. This is more true to life. Now, I did use the natural or the original presets for the phones, and I found that it has the best colors. Oppo is also very good. A little bit close, not as wide field of view as the Vivo. And to pick a winner, I do like the Oppo. The skin tones, the amount of details, and just the way it's captured is good, even though it is a little bit closer than the other two. With this shot here of my cat Snow, he was wriggling around, didn't want to sit still, and that's why there is a difference with the Magic shot, but all three look excellent. I quite like the Vivo here. It gets the different shades around his eyes, but what is more true to life with the colors is, in fact, somewhere between the Oppo and our Honor phone here. He gets the colors a little bit better because around his eyes, it's actually quite dark. It's almost black. It's a very dark brown. And it gets the focus of his eyes a lot better than the Vivo, which didn't lock onto his eyes, even though that's what I was going for. All three do have a nice amount of details, good bokeh, good background blur, and yes, they are using their optical zoom cameras. So we have the 3x, 3.7, or 3.5 times optical. I'll go through all the cameras now. So starting with our ultra wides, you can see field of view on the Honor is the best. It gets more in the shot, which is what an ultra wide should be like. Colors, so as I mentioned, we're using the natural or original presets. The Oppo's a little bit oversaturated. The Vivo and the Honor get the colors more correct, but I'd have to say that the Zeiss Natural here does get it closest to life, to true life here. Main cameras now, and you can see there's a bit of a difference with the way the cloud is captured just above where you can see the little tiny tower and all those trees. If you ever look at the Honor, it does get some of those different shades and more details on those clouds. I find the HDR to be a little bit better. The colors are good. Here the Vivo has the sky a little bit too blue, and I just think that overall the Magic 8 Pro did take a slightly better main camera photo. Optical zoom now, so all three I have set to 10 times, so that is mostly digital zoom to get a look at what kind of details we get, blurriness, sharpening. Are they going to add in some artificial AI stuff? Now, I do have the AI disabled on them. The Magic doesn't have it on, and it seems to have the most details, certainly brightest shadows to me. The worst off here would probably be the Oppo at 10 times. It does have the weakest optical zoom at 3 times only compared to 3.7 and 3.5. Not that that makes too much of a difference. The Vivo is good, but I would say that the Magic 8 Pro got more details again in those clouds. Continuing with the zoom, this time at 30 times zoom, you can see that the Oppo, I think, is the worst off here, looking at the details of those trees. Now, it seems the Vivo has applied a bit of sharpening here. They've certainly tweaked up that contrast. The shadows are looking quite dark. A little bit artificial-like on the hill there. You can see with those little shrubs and bushes and things. So I don't know whether some AI is still happening there to enhance that. And then the Honor is also good. There's some details in there, but it doesn't look quite as good at the 30 times as our Vivo X300 Pro. One more sample, took it down to 10 times, looking at the castle of Denia. Showed you this clip with the video. Now, you'll see that the Honor, to me, it's a little bit overexposed. It's not that great, that image. It's certainly last place. Now, the Oppo, very good colors here. This is the most true to life. I do like it. And the Vivo, the white balance is a little bit off, and you don't get as many details with the cloud that you can see to the left of the image, whereas the Oppo gets that. It captures that. The Vivo image looks sharp. It is, dare I say, maybe a tad bit over-processed. Still a very good shot, but it's second place to me, and the winner being the Oppo. Bright Flowers now testing the macro or super macro modes, and all three of them are pretty good. They're not bad. I find the Honor, personally, to be a little bit too bright. It's not bad. I like the background blur. The Oppo looks very good. It didn't saturate quite as much the colors, especially the greens, as our Vivo did. Good amount of details. And I feel that with the Vivo, we get maybe a fraction more details. It certainly has the contrast tweaked up a little bit, and some of the reds there are clipping. I mean, they're clipping some of the colors on all three. So none of them is quite perfect, and I really think it's down to about a tie for the Oppo and the Vivo. They are both good, and maybe leaning towards a little bit more the Vivo for the super macro shot here. On the subject of clipping colors, very difficult. Bright red hibiscus flower. Cameras, they all hate this one. So the Oppo's third place. It's overexposed, clipping a lot of colors. Now, between the Honor and the Vivo, super close, right? You look at them and go, they're almost identical. In terms of detail, however, cropping in 200%, which I've done now, you can see if you look at that right side petal at the top of the main red flower, there are more details, a few more with our Honor versus the Vivo. So it's not clipping the colors as much. There's still a little bit happening, but it is the best image out of these three here. And this is not the macro mode, this is just the normal 1x main camera on all three. Back with our main cameras and focusing on details and the white balance and colors. You can see that all three of them here are quite different. Now the Oppo, I find it to be a little bit too white. The balance here, it should be a bit warmer. And it's also, the exposure is tweaked up a little bit. Now when you look at the Vivo, I think the colors here, these are more true to life from what I actually did see. The sharpness, it has been a bit over sharpened, but there are still some details. I'm not confusing sharpness and details here, but it has captured a little bit more. The magic is good. I would rate that as being second place, and first the Vivo with this main camera photo. Finally, onto our low light. So this should look a little bit yellowish, the lights they do use here. So the white balance is off on the Vivo just a bit. But if you look at the sky with the Honor, it's a bit blocky. There's some patchiness to it, not amazing. The way the lights are handled, a little bit different on all three. But the Vivo has a bit more details. Yes, it's a little bit over sharpened, but I do like the Vivo shot the best. Ultra-wide cameras, and it's using the night mode, so they're not amazing. There is a bit of blur to them. You can see the Oppo has some blur with the chair. It doesn't look so good. The Vivo I rate as being second place. I quite like the Honor here. Wider field of view, and it's, I think, the best shot. Main camera, they're all trading blows here. If you have a look carefully, maybe pause the video, you can see the sky is handled different, a bit patchy with the Magic 8 Pro, not looking amazing. However, it captures that Calval neon light, the best out of all three here. Details across all of them look good. The Vivo's especially good. It's hard to really pick a winner here. They are all three of them great. Here with this shot, the Honor, it makes the sky look almost a little bit green. It shouldn't look green there. It has a bit of a blue color to it. The Oppo and the Vivo looking great and very similar colors there. Now zooming in, here is where I think the Vivo's done an excellent job with the zoom test, but with this light, you can see you can hardly even read where it says restaurant and club. I think the Honor did a better job with that. But then it does suffer from some flare and ghosting, which kind of ruins the image. All three here are struggling with the night sky. Worst on the Honor, there's a bit of patchiness to it, maybe even a little bit of a green tint. The Oppo does have a lot of patchiness with the sky, and the Vivo's captured it the best. However, the Vivo captured the blue Posada del Mar sign the worst. And then zooming in now to 10 times, I think it's probably the Oppo that looks the best here. When you have a look at the frame around the window, there's more details, the different shades there, whereas the Vivo didn't quite get all of those different shades. The Honor also looks very good, but I think the Oppo with this shot. So there's certainly trading blows when it comes to low light performance. All right, so these are my findings. You don't have to agree with me on this. Remember, it is all subjective, but I think video performance, the Oppo had the least amount of noise with the front-facing camera. Rear cameras, the Oppo had the best color with video. However, it didn't have the best stability. I noticed at times it was a little bit all over the place. The Vivo seemed to be the more stable, so that won out with the optical and electronic image stabilization. Microphones, I would say it was either the Magic 8 Pro or the X300 Pro. The Vivo audio was very good, but it did suffer from wind noise a little bit more. It did seem to be a bit richer, however. A low light video, well, I think that went to the Vivo. It seemed to be slightly better. They weren't perfect, all three of them, but it did come out on top with the least amount of dropped frames. For portraits, well, it's all down to personal preference with this one especially because they're very different. There's more contrast with the Vivo. It's over-sharpened more. It does a bit of skin smoothing. You may like that. I like the Oppo look, which is a bit softer. The Honor with the hardcore portrait mode is more of a vintage kind of look, somewhere in between, but I found skin tones to be a little bit too bright. My pick for the portraits is the more softer Oppo. Zoom photos, for me, the win went to the Vivo with the optical 3.5 times, and when you go to 10 times and beyond, it seemed to be the better of the three. Macro shots, again, personal preference. Do you prefer to be slightly more contrast and saturation? Then you go for the Vivo. Otherwise, the Oppo was also very good at the macro shots. Ultra wide photos, my pick was the Honor Magic because it tended to get a lot more in the shot with its wider field of view, and that, after all, is what ultra wides are about, trying to get as much in the shot. Fisheye lens, the lens correction seemed to be good on all three of them. The colors, at least with the ultra wide using the original preset, did seem to be more true to life, at least with the sky and not being oversaturated like the Oppo. Close second would be the Vivo. Finally, low light performance. Now, they all traded blows here. Most of them were not good at the sky. If it was a black sky, it looked a bit blotchy, sometimes green. I wasn't happy with the results of all three, really. None of them were perfect. I think the Vivo would sometimes pull out to be slightly better than the other two phones there. So do you agree with my findings here? And if you had a choice between these three phones, if someone said, hey, I'll give you one of them, which phone would you pick and why? Let me know in the comments.